Alright, so welcome to this coverage here of the Michigan Open now. This is round one, and I had the black pieces, and my opponent again ventured e4, so I went c6, knight to f3, d5, the Carl Khan. Exchange variation, and after the pawn came to d4, I played a6, c4, Pana Botvinnik, I played my knight out to f6, bishop came out to g5, knight to e4, hitting that bishop. Went to f4, I played e6, supporting my center. Opponent played a3, so both of us have similar ideas, wanting to take away checks from the bishop and keep that diagonal covered until we're castled. Play bishop to e7, bishop d3, knight to c6, eyeing the center pawn there, castled, and play my knight back to f6. Knight came out to c3, and now I had the idea of trying to make this pawn weak, right? Maybe at some point we can capture it, so I play c takes, and also I don't want to have a pawn become weak on d5. b5, bishop to b7. Use my rook to oppose their rook on the c file, and then when the knight came here, it just seemed like this was a mistake. Allowing me to take this pawn here on d4. But white does have a lot of activity, so I capture on d4. Bishop goes back. Now, of course, this is a bit of a. If I leave my knight here, I'm in trouble, because bishop takes, and then queen takes, and there's bishop to b5 check. Right, so I need to be careful about that, so I drop my knight back. And or if I had castled, there's also bishop takes h7 there as well. But so we're in this position, and then the queen came out to e2, and I castled. Rook opposed my queen, I put my knight in the way. So this felt good, actually. With the pawns being gone on this side and this side, that means the knight's kind of just firmly placed there, and well reinforced by my bishop and this pawn on e6. So I felt with my extra pawn, like this game would be a good one, and that I should be able to convert. But it's just one pawn, and it's early, and they've got both bishops, and they're both eyeing my king. So I knew I had a battle, to fight through here to try to win this. Knight took on d5, I recaptured. I got pulled over there. Mate threat. And in a moment, I remember this now. In a moment, I actually have well, you guys will see it. So I played my pawn here, queen goes back, played my king up, queen goes here, threatening the check on h6, I play my bishop back, and then this move. So this is kind of subtle. Bishop's got this pawn threatened, so this is actually a threat to take the h5 pawn. I played queen to d8, challenging the queen, and she took my pawn with check. Now we're back to equality in terms of pawns. And here, I played a rather aggressive move. And maybe not the most sound, not too bad, I guess, engine-wise, as I look at this. But I played this f5 move with the idea if she takes, I can take on h4, and that's what we did. But there's a lot of pressure, right? And then I was really worried now that this bishop takes f5 would win the game for my opponent. And actually, looking at the engine's evaluation, it absolutely does. So he didn't see bishop takes f5, but you start going through some lines, it's awfully scary. So the first problem is the bishop's also immediately threatening to take on e6. So I don't really have a lot of time here to make different decisions. And if I play pawn takes bishop, then rook takes my bishop. If I play rook takes bishop, then rook can take this bishop. Oh, no, sorry. If I play rook takes bishop, then there's queen checks. That's what it was. Hold on, let me look at that again. Bishop takes. Let's look at this real quick. I remember in the game looking at this and thinking this was going to be the end for me. Yeah, well, that's what it was. That's why I forgot. Yeah, the rook takes, and if I take here, just takes the pawn with check, right? And then gets the rook. Yeah, that's what it was. This is the line. Yeah, and white would have been way ahead in that line. Way, way, way ahead. So unfortunate that bishop f5 move wasn't found. Instead, rook to c1. Played my queen back to c6. We exchange queens, and luckily, I have this pressure on the b2 pawn. That ends up being a factor later on. Play my rook to d8. And then yeah, and there are a couple of pawn sacks here, just trying to get some lines for the bishops, right? So he's opening up these bishops in the position. Getting them active. Rook came into c7. Playing a bishop to f3. And the bishop covers the check, which is important, right? Because if I was able to check here, there'd be a follow-up check that would pick up the rook, so covers that check. But it allows me to take the pawn. And bishop threatened my rook, and then here I thought for a long time. And finally I found what I consider to be a very good move, rook to b8. And the idea was to come up here to b7 and challenge that rook using my bishop to support it. And then try to convert with these extra pawns that I've gotten, right? So I went here, was given a check, king walked up, pawn came up, so there's another sack. I take there. Now, this is somewhat an easy decision just because of how close this pawn is to queening. So it's like, wow, you're giving me an outside passer. Rook came to d7, playing my rook to d5, checked, king threatened the bishop. And here, my opponent actually resigned. Computer evaluations are like 14 pawns better for black. The real problem is just all these extra pawns, right? We've got two more pawns than white. So maybe I'll put these guys together, make this be the extra one, but those 2 pawns being felt now. But yeah, it was an interesting game. I got a little nervous, like I said, bishop f5, and I don't win this game. So, and that's kind of fun too. It's always fun to go back and see, the imperfections in your game, the things you need to work on. So queen takes h4 was a mistake. I couldn't play it when I played it. But as good fortune would have it, I was able to start off this event with a win. Now remember, in the Indianapolis Open, I started off with a loss. And so this win put me in good position to start playing some high-rated players and get some good battles, right? All right, well, we'll get to game 2 soon. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. And man, over the board is just such a different beast. You play a lot of online games and you think you understand chess and you're ready to go play an event, but my return after 7 years of not playing over the board was like pretty eye-opening. Just a lot. The games just feel a lot different. Very similar positions happen, but different moves are made. Good job to my opponent. Great game. He definitely had a chance to win the game. I got fortunate that I was able to convert. And like I said, we'll see you guys next time. Bye for now, guys.